Get ready because today we're going through the CELPIP examination mock reading test. We're going to be focusing on skimming and scanning techniques because the test is fast and we need to keep up with the timer. I'm Scott from HZadEducation. We share videos all related to the CELPIP exam, so if you're getting ready to take the test, follow along. Now today I'll be using the HZadEducation AI platform. Here you have options to choose from a variety of different mock tests so that you can practice the test and get real AI-generated feedback, just like you would in the exam. Get ready, because this test is fast, so follow along with me as I show you how I find the answers, and then we'll see the results. Alright, we have 10 minutes, so we're going to practice the skimming and scanning, which means we need to look at the questions first. The first question asks about Charles. Best friend, never had a problem with Jeremy, form a relationship, thinks that Jeremy had a charming personality. Jeremy and Charles took a while, had classes together, had most classes, slept early. Okay, so we're focusing on the first question. Let's take a look. Dear Mr. Jacob, and it is from Charles. So Charles is the writer of this email. So Charles and Jeremy, the purpose is reference Mr. Jaron Swanson, who I've known as a classmate for a period of 5 years. I first met him in freshman year. We're both studying at the arts program, and became acquainted through a number of common classes that we shared. By the second year, we had become friends and decided to share off-campus apartment together. Okay, so in the second year. Accordingly, we have gotten to know Jeremy well over the past few years. I believe it puts me in a position to provide you with widely accurate assessment of his character. This seems like a reference letter. As a student, Jeremy was hardworking, committed to his education, transcripts, involved in a number of extracurriculars, track and field, the newspaper. In fact, in the last 2 years, he was the assistant editor. He's outgoing and willing to help. He's popular. As a roommate, he was a great choice. He was neat and tidy. He kept things in order. He made a point of cleaning his own room and the common areas. Socialized occasions, always respected my needs, and his guests kept the noise down. As a friend, he's a standout. He's loyal, honest, considerate, supportive individual. He is a great communicator. He's hypersensitive, always turns other people might feel. He likes to have fun things, an outgoing rivalry, squash course. To tell the truth, I can't think of any consequences on negative sides. All in all, he is a well-balanced and abundant of positive characters. All right, very fast skimming. I know what the article is about. So Charles is the writer. Never had a problem. Mostly had a formal relationship. No, not C. It's not formal. We don't know that he's his best friend. They were getting along well. And we could assume that he has a charming personality because he said that he is very popular with many of his friends. Jeremy and Charles had classes together. That is true. Had not all, but maybe they had most, not slept early. Now, these two questions are very similar, but it's not said in the text, so we could assume it took them a while to become friends because that was in their second year. Charles is writing this letter because he wants to point out his positive characteristics or positive qualities. He wants Jeremy to get the job done. While some of these are true, we don't know exactly. We do know that he wants to point out his positive qualities, but the best answer is that he knows Jeremy well, so he is suitable to write this reference letter. That's my best guess. Jeremy is probably not offensive to others. He loves having fun. He socializes. He's polite and asks friends to leave party. D is not correct. I don't think he said he asks to leave early. I believe they said he kept the noise down. Okay. Now, he does socialize, he does care about how people feel, and he does love having fun, but the closest answer is that he cares about how people feel because they talk about him being a hypersensitive person. We're moving fast. Jeremy was a neat freak. While they did talk about him being clean, He's tidy all the time. A neat freak is someone that's overly tidy. So I don't think it's true or false because we don't really know. And he's not a neat freak. We can assume that not enough information is given because he's clean, but he's not a neat freak. What is true of Jeremy's school life? Bookworm, we don't know. Had a broad range of skills? Yeah. He was doing too many things? No. Too many means more than we need. And he never had a rival with others, at least not from what we can tell in the text. So he had a broad range of skills. They talked about arts, but also track and field. That's broad. Now we have to complete the paragraph using drop-downs and using logic from the written response. Firstly, I would like to express my gratitude for all the details you were able to include. I must say, Jeremy and you must have been friends for a decade. We don't really know that. Must be close. We can do that. Very active. That was not really mentioned. Good men of character. Must be close is the best because it fits grammatically, and we heard that in the text. I'm just concerned since our work would mostly be regarding calculations and an arts background, sports, decent personality, co-curricular. I would assume that this person would consider that the arts background is not suitable because he is criticizing his education. And I know this because he said regarding calculations, arts and math do not combine very well. So assuming his arts background might not be of much use to us. However, okay, so we're going from negative to positive. However, he is athletic. Well, that's not necessary in this sentence. Emotionally intelligent, we don't know. Active and committed. Active and athletic do not fit in these sentences because the person won't care if he's athletic. Emotionally intelligent probably doesn't fit because, again, the job recruiter wants to find someone that is committed. If he is as committed as you say, we can probably work with him. Oddly enough, there will be a situation where we will need to deal with difficult customers, and I believe communication skills, okay, probably. Honesty, true. Ability to be popular, no, not necessary. His non-confrontational style, ooh, tough one. I believe, because of the setting of this, either communication or non-confrontational styles would work best. However, I think that non-confrontational is the most suitable answer because his non-confrontational styles will take him a long way in steering those conversations in the right direction. So it would be an awkward sentence to say his communication skills will help him steer those conversations in the right direction. Non-confrontational means that he's steering them in a positive way. So this one fits best, and we have to read the whole sentence. That, coupled with his something nature, okay, so his introverted, extroverted, calm, assertive. He's not introverted. He had a lot of social outings at school. We don't know that he's calm. That was never mentioned. And assertive, well, we don't know that he's assertive. We never read that in the story. So his extroverted nature, that means he's an outgoing person, will help him shine at the reception desk when needed. We have 1:30 left. Now, if you have an extra bit of time, you can go through some questions that were a little bit more difficult because a lot of these you have to skim fast through the text. All right, moving on to the next section. I told you, we're moving fast today. 8 minutes. We have to look at the photo here for the travel option, then we're reading a response and filling in the blank, and we have just 3 drop-down questions. So let's go ahead and zoom in quite a bit. Travel options, car, plane, bike. We're looking for pros and cons and some of the advantages or the qualities. Low investment, oil needs to be maintained, regular gas expenses, no insurance, easy stops, so you're in charge of stops, chance to include multiple friends, play your music, bring pets, danger while sleeping, poor visibility, plausible tire issues, old car. A plane has low costs due to the season. Okay, we have extra bags, we have delayed flights, no refunds. On the positive side, we have the safest mode, top-notch service, luxury, good selfie ideas. And then we have delays, not ideal for customers with phobias, unfriendly, unsafe during pandemic, etc. The motorcycle is an initial big investment, a lot of oil changes, higher insurance, tire replacement. Very thrilling. Fellow bike rides, so you could go with people. Easy to overcome traffic, no maintenance, no major. Considered unruly, makes a lot of noise and less range. All right, very quick idea of what this is about. Now we have 6 minutes remaining. So subject, travel options. To Gary from Jason. Hey Gary, I have your itinerary ready as requested. It was a short deadline, but I pulled in some resources last minute who were able to make it happen. I know you're not a huge fan of so I would never recommend the over others due to the frequent tire changes. I needed to read that to see what they're talking about. Which one talked about frequent tire changes? The bike. Okay. I know you're not a huge fan of probably maintenance because we're talking about the tire changes. So I would never recommend the bike because we just saw in the picture. Now, if you want something that you could use when needed, rental options with cars would suit you on the top of the... so a rental car would be top on the ease. No, cheap gas, low risk. A, B, and C just aren't good answers, so we can't choose them. Outdoor adventure possibilities, because it also said that a car you can frequently stop, so you have a chance to play your own music and do your own thing. If it comes down to picking one feature between safety and excitement, you're looking at either okay, so excitement or what is it? Excitement, safety, and excitement. The plane was exciting and the bike was the plane was safe and the bike was exciting. So do we have that? Plane and bike. Okay. Finally, while the plane comes with multiple class selections, it's missing the that the car or bike provides. Probably freedom. Friendliness, no. Dangers, no. Socialization, that would be the closest because the bike also gives us the option to go in parades, as they mentioned. I know it can be overwhelming, but when I meet you at the start of my shift tomorrow, oh, okay, so he is a worker, we can catch up more, i.e. if you decide to be on time. Just kidding, haha, they have a friendly relationship. Using the drop-down menus, choose the best option according to the information. So, what is their relationship? Well, we just found out that he is a worker. So, Jason is a worker, and Gary must be above him in status. Close friends. One of them is the boss. Colleagues analysis. They could be colleagues, but it says, I have your itinerary requested. This makes me think that Gary is above him in status. So I'm going to say that one of them is the boss, and that would be Gary. While the other two did seem all right, like close friends and colleagues, well, colleagues would be best, because he's providing him with an itinerary and doing all the work for him, I think that one of them is the boss. Who do you think is more hardworking? Oh, that's tough. Well, I mean, Jason's doing all the work. He is finding all the answers. He's providing it all for him. And he also said, if you decide to come to work on time, just kidding. This makes me think that Gary just doesn't arrive on time. So Jason seems more hardworking. How did Jason provide the above info to Gary? I was gonna say an email, but that's not an option. It was all over the place. No, it was quite organized. It was too much. Maybe. It was well organized. Maybe. It was covering majority of the details. Well, in this case, I would think that, yeah, was it too much? I want to think that it's not well organized, and I have a minute and a half or minute 50 to think about this. It wasn't really well organized because he kept going back and forth between plane, bike, plane, bike. Something that is more organized would say, your best option is because these reasons. But at the same time, it wasn't totally random. I would like to think that it was too much and perhaps it was a bit overwhelming because he provided a lot of details for Gary. BBB. Okay, good. So in this section of the test, I recommend first looking at the image, getting a general understanding about the pros, the cons, and some big key features about each item. Like I noticed the difference between the bike is that it had more maintenance required, but also more freedom. While the plane highlighted a lot of safety options, but it's a little bit more expensive. Actually, it said it was low cost. Never mind. And they had a lot of problems with like fear, not safe during pandemic. So that's a big part where you have to take a look at the key pieces of information. Let's hit submit and go to the next. All right, the next section is where we have to assign a paragraph to the prompt, to the title here. The first thing I'm going to do is quickly get an understanding of what are we discussing here. I already see the word scientific method, method again, scientist, observations, scientific method. So I know that we're talking about some scientific method. Each paragraph will probably go into something else. Like here I see spider size, difficult experiments, conclusion of the hypothesis. All right, and we will have to read this briefly. E is if it's not given. The next thing we want to do is read all of our prompts and look at the possible options. So number 1, a possible objection can be made to the current opinion. An aim is made to reach a plausible conclusion. Self-inflicted punishment is made necessary to reach a conclusion. Scientific method never involves a few main steps. All right, I'm going to start thinking about where we can place these because I'm already at number 4. Possible objection can be made to the current opinion. So something about objection, current opinion. I'm just skimming here. Scientists work together. That's not an objection. Steps can occur in order, but usually the first step is observation. All right, we heard something about steps. Hearing the 5 senses, for example. Now, just because I saw the word steps, the steps can occur, and I remember that there was one here. The scientific method involves a few main steps. So I'm going to go ahead and just put A because I can remember that. But I'm still looking for a possible objection to the current opinion. The second step, okay, well, that's all right. It still talks about steps, but this one identifies that there are 5 steps. Hypothesis, this question is turned into a statement about an event or an object. A good hypothesis includes 3 things: explanation, observation, and is tested by other scientists. Perhaps. Observing the spider web may have a question, an example of hypothesis. The larger spider. Hypothesis includes explanation, observed, tested, conclusion. Experiment. An experiment is a test which either will challenge or support the hypothesis. We're getting pretty close, and I'm going to assume that that means a possible objection can be made because they will either support or deny the hypothesis. So I'm going to put this for B, and just remember, if you continue reading and find new information, you just go back and change your answer. That's okay. An aim is made to reach a plausible conclusion. I feel like we just read something about that. In paragraph B. An aim is made. Okay, I'm going to leave that one for now. Self-inflicted punishment is made necessary to reach a conclusion. All right, let's quickly look for anything about punishment. Hypothesis will be true or false. Spider hypothesis. Relation to the size. Now, none of these questions really ask us about a spider, so I'm skimming past spider information. We're focusing on the details. The final step in the scientific method is the conclusion. Do we have anything about conclusion? No. Unexpected outcomes can open new doors. Let's see, because we're getting close to the outcomes. Scientists may choose. If it does not support the hypothesis, the scientist may choose to change the hypothesis or write a new one based on what learned during the experiment. For example, all right, so that is new outcomes. If they do not provide expected outcomes, they will open new doors. Paragraph C. Start with an observation and finish with a conclusion. Key senses. Key senses used to judge. We talked about this. The 5 senses, including seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting. All right, that's definitely paragraph A. It is proven that a large spider builds bigger webs. Okay, we do have a question about spiders. Where did we talk about spiders? The larger the spider, the stronger the web. Oh, wait. An example hypothesis might be. So it is not proven. Does it say anywhere else about the spider proved to make a larger web? A scientist experiment by measuring the spider's relationship to the web. Oh, this is tricky. They're talking a lot about the spiders and the relationship to the web and the size of the spider, but I do not see anything where it proves. So far, I'm thinking that this is E. Remember, E means that the answer is not provided in any of the paragraphs. Usage applies to a broad range. I haven't read paragraph D yet. The spider's experiment be done by scientists all over the world. In summary, scientific methods include steps scientists use to solve the problem, to discover a theory. Hypothesis, experiment, conclusion. These steps may be completed in the same order. We did have a question about ordering. But because it said this can be done all over the world, that means we could apply it to a broad range of places and people. D. The number 9 is D. Now, let's go back. An aim is made to reach a plausible conclusion. We started off by talking about hypothesis. And then we went into more details about this hypothesis. And then they gave us some information about the spiders and how they come to a conclusion and if there's not a conclusion. And then finally we talk about experiments around the world and how they do these observations. So I'm thinking it's either paragraph A or B. A plausible conclusion. Tested by scientists, and it will usually predict the outcomes. I'm going to go with paragraph A because I'm running out of time. Self-inflicted punishment is made necessary. I did not read anything about punishment. Start with observations and always finish with a conclusion. Where did we read that? I think it was paragraph D. The scientific method. There are 4 basic steps. The usual step includes observation, hypothesis, experiment, and conclusion. The steps may not always be completed in the same order. Following the 4 steps, the results of the experiment will either support the hypothesis or will not support it. So paragraph D, it has to be paragraph D. Wow. Okay, just 1 minute left. As you can see, I do not read the story from start to finish. First, I get a very general understanding of what the paragraphs are about. Go through A, B, C, D. We know they're about experiments and spiders. And then I go through all of the questions or the paragraph key objectives, and I start to get an understanding. But I'm never doing all 9 of them at the same time. I'll take a look at 2 or 3, maybe 4, and then I'll go back to those paragraphs and start skimming for those answers. Your brain is not going to be able to retain all of it at once. So let's break it down into chunks as you go back and forth to the questions. Okay, ready for the next section? We are moving quickly. All right, in this section, we're reading a column and then we'll also read a response. So the first one is quite long. I'm going to get a general understanding. I see e-vehicles, so electric vehicles, green environment, climate change combined with rising sea levels, CEO, UN Atmospheric Bureau, something about winters, 100 meters. EVs are produced by coal-burning electric plants. Interesting. 5-year plan. 20% rise in these car prices will be an ethical move. Okay, so this is some type of article about environmental cars, electric vehicles, and the pros and cons. Let's look at the questions. To what extent does Adam think that electric vehicles will be benefit? To what extent? Okay, so how much? How did Mr. Wendell approach the matter? Mr. Wendell here. Wendell Motors, Frederick Wendell. And what was Wendell's main concern regarding EVs? All right, so I'm going to start skimming and scanning for the information. To what extent does Adam think that electric vehicles will be beneficial? Strongly agrees, strongly disagrees, partially. All right, Adam, the first one, director of Zeller Motors, is a staunch believer in e-vehicles. He is a proponent of green environment. Right there, first sentence, he is a staunch believer. That means he is a strong believer. He strongly agrees. How did Mr. Wendell approach the matter of child labor? I don't remember reading child labor. Disgusted, he believed that children are required. Ugh. He wanted to be controversial. He didn't prioritize that. Well, let's find Mr. Wendell and child labor. And don't even get me started on the child labor allowed in developing countries while these lithium batteries are required. Interesting. So he says, don't get me started. So he's not, well, maybe he's disgusted, but it's not B. He doesn't believe they're required. He didn't want to be controversial. He didn't prioritize it because he said, don't even get me started. That means let's not talk about this during the interview. So he is not prioritizing the subject of child labor for e-vehicles. What was Wendell's main concern regarding it? Wendell, so we might have to skim more. They barely accelerate over 100 meters. We'll look for 100. Problem after hitting minus 10. We'll look for the number 10. Electric vehicles are not actually impacting the environment. I don't recall that. 40 to 50% of e-vehicles are impractical in the summer. I don't remember seeing 40 to... Oh, there is 40 to 50. In the winters. Oh, okay, so we could cross out D because it's not winters, it's summers. I'm going to focus on A or B, 100 or 10. Where did they said? Once you accelerate even slightly, just barely 100 meters, it takes off a complete kilometer from your range, which is completely preposterous. He contracted that even during summers, he stated the range of these cars way below the actual consume. Okay, we're getting close to that. Where did they talk about 10 degrees? Oh, his first argument relates to the impracticability of such cars which don't heat enough through the winters, minus 10. Will not even open the doors and have less range. Because this is his first argument, and he said it doesn't work in minus 10, plus 40 to 50% less range in the winter. So it sounds like after minus 10 degrees, the car is just not usable. It's impractical. So we're going with the fact that there's a problem after hitting minus 10 degrees. Adam disagrees with Frederick on the car range, the child labor, the climate change, his direction. Okay, here we go. Mr. James admits the issue. Engineers developed a 5-year plan. The removal of child labor will ultimately push higher prices. Continue to invest in. However, the 20% rise in these prices will be more ethical. So he agrees that we shouldn't use children because the 20% rise is good. They're making strides to pursue a greener climate. Despite being in a work in progress, he hopes they provide conventional customers. This is a tough one, so I'm going to come back to that question. Frederick does not appreciate the ethical dilemma, Adam's thinking style, pragmatic use, or all of above. So, Frederick. It's all of them, isn't it? The ethical dilemma is the children. Adam's thinking style, he overall disagrees with it. The industry is a scam. It affects the environment, electricity, coal burning. How does this help climate change? Yeah, he disagrees with all of the above. All right, not to forget number 4. But now I'm moving on to the response. So this is the response to the article, and we're going to complete the sentence using appropriate logic. Sometimes it's grammar that you're looking for, and you often have to read in advance. Read more than the drop-down button. I am shocked to see that Frederick, however, I drove an EV before, and boy, was it a nightmare. Okay, so however, that tells us the sentence is changing. I am shocked to see that Frederick can be contentious, completely ignore car's impact, child labor a lot. Well, this one doesn't make sense. I'm shocked to see that Frederick child labor is allowable. It would have to be Frederick's. Frederick supports coal burning plants. That was never explicitly said. It's just a byproduct. So A or B. I'm going to go with contentious because it was a very controversial article, and it makes it seem like, how can Frederick be so full of this matter? And then he goes on to say, however, I drove one and it was a nightmare. So that seems quite fitting. Not only is Adam being delusional when he says that we have a high plastic use, that wasn't mentioned. The price hike is justified, that was mentioned. That was the 20% rise in cost down here. Range is not a problem. They said range is a problem. Industrialists are bad, never mentioned. So the only one that's really mentioned is that the price hike is justified. So Adam's delusional when he said the price hike was justified, considering tough economic climate, but also his on the climate is very apocalyptic. His views? His positive, well, it won't be his positive look. Gloomy look, yeah, that fits better. His future plans on the climate are, he doesn't have plans for the climate. He just is stating about the climate circumstances. And we didn't really hear about a team's approach. So gloomy look is the best. It's like negative. Frederick has the something down to a T, as I experienced in the months of January and February. Down to a T means like exact. He has it perfect. So he has the what? Sham concept? No. Power plant conspiracy, winter hypothesis, lithium batteries. Sham concept? No. We do hear that he calls it a scam, not a sham. Power plant conspiracy? No. We talked a lot about the winter hypothesis, that the fact that it doesn't work very well after -10, and that was one of his main arguments. Since he probably has more idea than Adam about how our planet will change during the future. Since he has done research, sits on the climate committee, is a CEO, somebody is a CEO. Yes. Wait. Frederick. Are we talking about Frederick? Yeah. So Frederick is a CEO. But somebody was on the climate. And atmospheric. So he does sit on the member. Just a moment. So Frederick is a CEO and he is a member of the UN Atmospheric Bureau, which is a climate committee. So we need to now figure out which one fits best. Now, because they are talking about how our planet change, CEO is not about climate, but the climate committee, the UN Atmospheric Bureau, that is about climate. Tough question. Now we're missing one, and we have 1 minute. Adam disagrees with Frederick on the car range, the child labor, the climate change, or his direction. I feel like he disagrees about all of them. He disagrees about the car range. Well, actually, he doesn't necessarily disagree about the car range. He disagrees about child labor, but Frederick also said, I'm not going to get into that, Mr. Wendell. The climate change, kind of. Because he does talk about, I thought they both agreed on the climate change. Don't even get me started. He said a controversial statement. We only have a few minutes, a few seconds. Completely ignored towards the planet. I'm going to say climate change because, well, I have 15 seconds. All right, pressing next. Now, the best part about using HZadEducation's AI platform is that it gives us our results, it shows us the correct answer, and it allows you to understand exactly how far you need to go for testing more. So if you are getting a good score here, you may be ready for the CELPIP exam. If not, well, keep practicing and follow along with our videos. Wow, I'm very pleased with these results. An aim is made to reach a plausible conclusion. The answer was B, not A. Starts with observation and finishes with conclusion. Oh, that was not given. I thought it was given. What was Wendell's main concern? Well, that one should be correct. And he disagrees on his direction. That was my answer. Now, finally, I get a tallied score about my feedback. So I got 33 My approximate CELPIP score is 9, which I'm very satisfied by, and we get some AI-generated feedback. This will tell me where I should focus my learning from here. Critical thinking, vocabulary understanding, inference and deduction. So please read through this on your own test because it'll help you to advance further. Now, if you followed along in the entire video and you got some insights on how to quickly do the CELPIP reading section, then please help that algorithm. Subscribe to the channel so you can check out the new videos that we post every week, and give a thumbs up to the video. It really does help us and we appreciate it. I'm Scott from HZadEducation. It's a pleasure doing the CELPIP test with you, and I'll see you next time.